Okay, welcome back to one more presentation on the data analysis as long as the IoT application layer is concerned. So in our previous presentation we have seen some of the important definitions which are required to be known to us in terms of the application or in terms of the service, right, in terms of SOA, that is the service oriented architecture, right, transactions, query. Then we have also seen something, a basic information about what exactly we mean by business transaction. Then we have also seen what exactly we mean by business intelligence. Okay, so after having seen all these things, we looked into the basics of how exactly the data is generated, right? So we have the passive data, passive device data, then we have active device data, we have the event data, right? So all these things, the real-time data, all those things we have seen in the previous presentation. So today we will move ahead with what we call as the data acquisition, right? All of you know what exactly is the meaning of data acquisition. It is basically acquiring the data from the IoT or machine-to-machine communication devices, because we have confined our discussion to IoT scenario. So the data acquisition can be with respect to anything, but as long as the IoT applications are concerned, it is the method of, or it is the means of acquiring the data from IoT machine-to-machine devices, right? A data communicate after the interactions with the data acquisition system. The data acquisition system, as you know, they will be in the application layer, right? The application interacts and communicates with a number of devices acquiring the needed data. You can go back to the same example which I have taken, the automated ice cream vending machine, which are kept at different localities in an area, right? So when you have connected that, how many type of or how many ice creams have been sold, so which kind of the ice creams, which flavor of the ice creams are having the maximum sale, which have got the minimum sale, right? So all those informations is said to be the acquisition of data, acquiring the data from IoT machine-to-machine communication devices, right? The application interacts and communicates with number of devices for acquiring the needed data. The devices send the data on demand or at a programmed interval. For example, your vending machine, right? So the same ice cream vending machine is programmed in such a way that it has to give the information about the sale details after every 1 hour, right, after every 2 hours, at the end of the day, something like this, right? So they can be programmed to send the data depending upon the demand or at a given interval of time based on the programming, right? So the data of the devices communicate using the network, transportation, as well as the security layer, right? So because you need to have all these things in order to make sure that the data from the basic devices or the IoT M2M devices reach the destination, that is the application here, right? By making use of the network or the transportation layer, or by making use of the different security protocols, if at all you feel that the data is very important and it requires a lot of integrity, right? So these are some of the basic aspects as long as the data acquisition is concerned. And you have something called as the device management software, right? So it is a part of the thing that is that you require in the data acquisition, right? Basically this device management software provisions for the devices ID or the addresses, activation, configuring, right? So registering, re-registering, attaching, detaching, all these works take place as long as the device management software is concerned, right? So now for example, you have got your SIM. Again, I always explain these things with the help of the example only. So same vending machines, you get back to those things at a particular area. You have something wrong with that particular machine. It is not communicating the data, or it has been shut down due to some reason, right? So that time the informations from that need not be accessed. That's what we call it as deregistering or detaching, right? So sometimes you may have to include new machines, right, wherein the registering is required, attaching that is required, configuring that may be required. So all those things, and you may have to provide the proper device ID, address. So whenever a new machine is installed, it needs to be activated in terms of the data communication from that machine to the application, right? So all these things are being taken care of by the device management software. The device management software again plays the role of one accessory or the auxiliary arrangement in order to make sure that the data acquisition takes place from the designated devices, right? And you can take one more example here, right, like what you can call as predictive automotive maintenance, right? So that is called PAM, predictive automotive maintenance. Now the meaning is that you generally, the servicing of the vehicles and other things, how exactly they take place, right? You take your vehicle to the service station, a designated person who generally manually checks the different faults, right? He takes his own time to check that. So once the different faults are identified, then he will make a job sheet or he will make a record, and accordingly, as per the consent from the owner, the different things are going to be repaired, right? So all those things take place. But if you make these things automatic, right, so that is called as the predictive automotive maintenance or the automotive components maintenance, right? So here you may have a number of system in the number of components in the system, right? You may have the engine control system, you may have the axle, you may have the steering, right? You may have the brake liners, wipers, air conditioners, batteries, shockers. So all these things require the maintenance, right? So now each component here embeds the computing hardware. So maybe a kind of sensor, a smart sensor, which we have spoken earlier, right? So especially in the high-end vehicles and all, you generally find these things. There will not be any manual inspections, right? Because all these components are embedded with smart sensors, right? So that is the reason why. So all these things are embedded with the computing hardware, software. The interfaces will be there to the network, right? So and each embedded device that communicates to a central computing system, very similar to what example I have taken for the ice cream vending machine, right? So here also it is more customized here, right? You take a vehicle to your service station, you put it in the place where it is to be checked, then so it is getting connected to a central computing system. Probably the wheel alignment and other things you must have done for different vehicles. So those things are also automatically taken care of. How exactly, how much is the deviation, and how, in what way you will have to make the corrections and all, right? So very similar to that here also in the predictive automotive maintenance, right? You have all these things, and all these things are connected to one thing called CAN, that is the controller area network. This is another type of computer network, especially used in the automotive or the control facilities. Wherever they appear, there you can make use of this controller area network, right? So then the consolidated data then communicates through the internet, or you may have the main center of this PAM somewhere else located, right, depending upon the complexity of the system, right? Then the application, which may be very distantly located somewhere here, right, depending upon the whatever the data you have acquired, right, from the different components, right? So that will take care of acquiring the data. Application at the system manages all the embedded device. It allows the device ID, activates, it configures, right, it registers, deregisters, attaches, deattaches, right? So you have all this software system gateways and other things, right? So now when all these things are done, finally the gateway, whatever you have there, it will communicate the acquired data, whatever you have taken from the smart sensors, right, which are aggregated, and it will once the communication is done through hotspots, Wi-Fi hotspots, or your other kind of communication whatever you have, right? So then the device data whatever you have measured here, it may be from the different devices that I have mentioned. It may be steering, it may be oil checking or engine control, brake lining, whatever it is, right? So that is managed to go to the central application. So depending upon the analysis, the information, right, whatever you are supposed to make, you may take some input from the owner also, depending upon the requirement, right? So all those things will be provided to your central application, and that application will take care of the necessary action to be initiated. So this is how you have the data acquisition taking place right from your physical layer here. So you have the physical layer, you have already come across the hotspot or the internet, and finally you have come to the application. Now this is what we are discussing here. If at all you want to discuss something here for the data analysis, everything must go, or everything must be enrouted from here. That is the basic place where your data is required to be accessed, right? So this is what we mean by the data acquisition, right, and the data management software for the purpose of data acquisition, right? So then comes the next one, the validation of the data. This is also equally important, the validation of the data. What exactly you mean by the validation? Not necessary that every time whatever the data you measure from the basic devices are correct, okay? So therefore the data needs the validation checks. Maybe if there is too much variation, if there is too much discrepancy as long as the data is concerned, then you may think of going for the validation. And generally the data validation softwares, right, so they are a part and parcel of this the data acquisition and analytics system, right? So those softwares will take care of the validation, right? So they apply the logic, they apply the rules, they apply the semantic annotation. So what do you mean by this is, see, you generally measure some data, generally you will be getting the maxima and minima of that, right? So now let us say that that vending machine, okay, the same ice cream vending machine, I will come back, right, in a particular area. So in this particular area, every day it is giving the information to the central application that 25, okay, to 30, say these many number of a specific type of ice creams are being sold there, okay, every day, right? Now all of a sudden if you get it 0, okay, or you get it as 1, or you get it as 100 or something like that, then you will have to apply the data validation there, right? So accordingly the softwares whatever are dedicated for that, they take care of when exactly it is required to validate the data, right? So now validation is as per the logic or rules or the annotations, right, must as per the application service processes, right, depend on the valid data. Then only the analytics, predictions, the dialogues, the decisions and other things can take place. So once in all the cases, of course, the validation of the data is not necessary, but in many cases, depending upon the complexity of the data analysis, right, so depending upon the sensitivity of the data analysis, the data validation may be required, right? So this is the next thing which we are supposed to look into. So now what we have done is we have started generating the data. Could it be from the passive devices? Could it be from the active devices? Could it be an event data, right? Could it be a real-time data? Then the next thing is that we have come to the acquisition of the data, how exactly the data is acquired, right? So then the acquired data, why it is required to be validated and how it is going to be validated, right? So we started from somewhere here in the generation. This is the data generation, then that is the data acquisition, then this is the data validation. Now you go to the storage of the data into the next layer, right? Data store. So whenever we speak about the data store, we have the database, right? Needless to mention what exactly we mean by the database. Anyway, we will discuss about all these things as and when they come in our discussion, right? Relational database, I will tell you about this. Flat files, spreadsheets, right? You may have the web server or mail server, right? So the acquired data stores in the database at the server, right? So there are dedicated servers. We are very well versed with the different methodologies that are being used in the data storage. We generally make use of your Google Drive, but that doesn't mean that Google Drive is the only thing for you to store the data. There are so many the service providers today as long as the data storage is concerned. But before going into that, we will try to see what are the different types of the data storage. Okay, so now you look here, the data storage categories: online or real time or streaming data need the processing, and only the results of the processing and analysis need the storage. So this is a very important point to be noted whenever you go with some IoT application, right? So we will have to categorize the requirement of the data storage. So a real-time data, or the data which is continuously streaming in, maybe the weather data or something like that, right, which keeps coming, right? The online data or real-time data, right? So they need the results of that. Okay, so now when you have analyzed the data, you have so many raw data coming in, right, and getting dumped into your database, right? But is all that data necessary for us for the further processing? No. So you may have some processing and analysis algorithms and other things deployed there. The result of that may be required to store. The other things you will just discard, right? So now for example, I just give you an example. I want the students who have got the CGPA more than 9 in my college. Okay, so there are 3,000 students, and maybe some 100 or 500, maybe some 500 students may be having a CGPA more than 9. So in order to do that, I collect all the data, 3,000 students data, then I will calculate, I will check out how many students are there with the CGPA above 9. So that I will take somewhere, the remaining data I will discard. So this could be one of the analogous examples, right? Not necessary, because I am speaking about the real time or the online data or the streaming data here, right? So that a part of that, a useful information in that is taken and it is stored. The remaining things are discarded. That is one thing, right? Data called once, only the result of processing at a later time and the end of analysis store, right? So now once the data appear, maybe that may appear somewhere in some other related calculations and all. The result of that is required sometimes later. You dump the data somewhere here, so you wait for some other data to come from different places, right? So that is another type of the data storage categories, right? Once it will be called, and its analysis or its processed output may be required at a later stage, right? So this is the second type of data. Data needing repeated calls store for the reference or the audit in the future. So this is another type, right? Repeated calls store for the reference or the audit purpose, right? So they may be required. So therefore, when you have a continuous train of data coming in, you should be in a position to categorize what category this particular data stream belong to and how exactly I should be able to handle it. So these are the three categories which we come across, right? And we have so many types of having the data store, right? We have something called VMware, right? So this is one repository, in fact one company, right? You have like that, you have got IBM, right? So this is one example which I have taken, right? So you have got Seagate, right? You have got your Microsoft, so many big shots, right? So they have got their own way, or they have their own services, right? Apache. So this Apache is one which is a very big name as long as the data storage is concerned, right? So basically this is how the data is going to get stored. A data store is a data repository of the set of objects which integrate into store. Objects in the data store model using the classes which the database schemes define, right? I will tell you about all these things, what exactly we mean by the objects, classes and all, right? So now these are some of the examples by virtue of which you will be able to understand how exactly the different types of data can be stored, right? So now ways of organizing the data, right? So you can organize the data in the form of flat files, as I've already told you, right? So spreadsheets, right? Database, a relational database, right? Only one scheme. I will tell you about this. Multiple data, SQL, not only SQL, I will come to all these points. Relational time series service database. So these are the different types, and depending upon the nature of the data, all the different types will give you the different provisions or the different advantages as long as accessing the data for the final analytics is concerned. So we started from the generation of the data, then we acquire the data, right? Then we start storing the data after having validated the data. So there are different mechanisms in the storage depending upon the type of the data and depending upon the categories of the data, and these are the different mechanisms which we generally come across as long as organizing the data is concerned, right? So now let us go back to our the frameworks, right? IBM framework. Probably the IBM framework we have come across when we discussed in our first topic, right? Connect, collect, assemble, manage, right? So you can see here, if you look at this diagram, so this is the internet firewall. So collect from things, your things are your Internet of Things, maybe your sensors or something like that, right? So here you have got NoSQL. I will tell you what is the meaning of SQL language or NoSQL language, right? So now you have got something called as big data store, the data center management, service management. Finally, all these things go into the cloud infrastructure. Of course, we will discuss in detail about the cloud infrastructure later. So now why I have specifically taken this diagram is, whenever we speak about the data handling, right, in the IBM framework we have this, that is the collect, assemble and manage, right? Collect the data, assemble the data and manage the data as per your requirement. And in the similar way we have got one more framework. If you remember correctly, we have got the Oracle's framework, which is giving us this in the form of manage, acquire, organize and analyze, right? So almost the other side remains same here, right? So you have the device management and all, you have got the database firewall, then this side you have got the enterprise integration, you have got the big data store, right? So analytics and business intelligence, in-memory analytics and business intelligence, data center management, server management, and finally after all these things it will go to this acquire, organize and analyze. And this is for the applications, services, enterprises, business processes and intelligence. So these things we have already spoken about. So now the two diagrams which I have represented here will give you an idea about how exactly the different frameworks, I mean the IBM as well as the Oracle framework, give the importance for the data acquisition, the data validation as well as the data storage, finally to be suitable for the applications, services, enterprises, processes and business intelligence. Okay, so these are the two diagrams which are relevant to the context here. Okay, so then we come across the way in which the data is stored, right? So and we will look into some of the basic aspects where and how the data is stored here, right? We have got the database and relational database. Database basically is a collection of data, right? So you do this in your day-to-day life in different contexts, right? So that's what we call it as the database. Collected data is organized into tables, and when you speak about the relational database, a collection of data into multiple tables which relates to each other through specific fields, right? So now for example, I have the same example which I have taken earlier, right? So I have got the total number of students, okay, right? So in the total number of students, let us say that I have got some 3000 students in my college, right? I may require the information about the different type of students, right? You may require the information about the male, you may require about the female, right? You may require about the category based students, right? So you may require the outside state students, right? You may require the physically disabled students. All those things will become a part or the subset of your main database. That is what we refer to as the relational database. And if you have more relational database, the accessing of the data and the subsequent analysis of the data may be sometimes relatively simple. That all depends upon where exactly you find the application of this relational database, okay? Then you have got something called as object oriented database, right? So now all the data is in the form of objects, saved objects in the object oriented design, right? So you have already maybe having some idea about what exactly we mean by the object oriented system, right? So everything will be expressed, or everything will be expressed in the form of the objects. We have already seen what exactly we mean by the objects, and the object oriented database has got its own advantages compared to the conventional database. As and when these things appear, we will discuss about this, right? This is another way in which the database is stored. One is the conventional database, the relational database, then the object oriented database. And in order to manage all these things, you have something called as database management system, the DBMS, right? A software system which contains a set of programs specially designed for the creation and management of data stored in the database, right? So this is again a totally different field altogether. If you look at the curriculums of your computer science or electronics and communication, you have separate DBMS subjects. Of course, we too have some of the elective subjects here as long as the DBMS is concerned, okay? The database management system. Then comes the database transactions. How exactly the transaction take place? The execution of a specific set of operations on the database. We have already spoken about the general transaction, we have already spoken about the business transaction. Now it is about the transaction which is, between two entities. The transaction is always relative, right? It is between the two entities. How exactly the database transaction takes place? The execution of a specific set of operations on the database, right? The transactions are generally performed on the database. There are different models, right? Must maintain the transaction atomicity, right? So that means it should be distinct, right? It should be consistent, it should be isolated, it should be durable, because when you look at the so many amount of data, a huge volume of the data, you have to take care of all those things, right? It should be maintaining its atomicity, that means its integrity. It should be consistent, there should not be any loss of the data or something like that. It should be properly isolated from being mixed up with the other data, and it should be durable. So all these things are taken care of by the database transactions, okay? Now comes what I have been speaking about is the structured query language. So before I talk about the structured query language, I will make a mention about your HTML hypertext markup language. I have already told you what exactly is a hypertext markup language. It is a language which is required to manage your hypertext documents, right? We have already seen in detail what exactly is the meaning of HTML, HTTP and other things, right? So now why I have made a mention about the HTML here is, so this is somewhere analogous to your SQL, maybe in a different context, not for your hypertext markup language or the hypertext file handling, but it is for the handling of managing RDBMS, real-time database management system. It is a language for the data access control, schema creation and modifications. I will tell you what exactly is the meaning of creation of the schema, right? And it is the language for managing real-time database management system, right? So in the real time, how exactly you will be able to handle the database, how exactly you will be managing the database, that is being taken care of by one of such languages that is called as structured query language, right? It's a structured query language for data definition. It could be for the data manipulation as well as the data control instruction. You just imagine when you have got huge amount of data which is required to be processed in real time, right? So it should also be, you know, governed by certain protocols, standards, right, methods and all, which are defined in your SQL the structured query language. You have something called as not only SQL or NoSQL. This I had mentioned earlier, right? So something which is not integrated with the applications that are based on structured query language. It is also possible, right? Used in cloud data store, right? So generally when you have got a lot of information stored in the cloud, so you may make use of NoSQL. This NoSQL consists of classes of non-relational data storage system, right? So we have already seen what exactly we mean by the relational data storage system, a small or multiple subsets of the basic big set, non-relational, right? So you may not have linked to this one, this may be linked with something else which is somewhere in your cloud or something like that, right? So in order to take care of the data management there, you make use of no integration with the applications that are based on SQL or which is not only SQL or NoSQL. Flexible data models, you can have the multiple schemas and all, as long as the NoSQL is concerned. These are the general things which we need to understand, right? So we need not be very precise and specific in understanding these things, because our domain is slightly different compared to that of computer science domain, right? Then comes the data transaction, right? So we have already seen the transaction, business transactions and other things, right? We will have the data transaction, a collection of operations that form a single logical unit of database. You collect it from the different corners, okay, and you embed it in a single unit, of course with the distinct things, so that you should be able to retrieve the data as and when you require. Collection of operations that form a single logical unit of database consists of all the operations executed between begin and end of the transaction. Operations such as connect, insertion, append, deletion, modification in a unit of database. This I have already spoken earlier when we discussed about the business transactions, right? So now it is also a part of that. You connect, you insert something, you modify something, you delete something, right? So all those things come under the data transaction. So now I think this is the time for us to stop here today, right, or this presentation. So in the next presentation we will see about this OLTP and the different other methods associated with the data handling and the data storage. So if you have any doubt so far whatever I have discussed, please get back to me. Thank you.